Hello, Leo Rising. I'm Britten LaRue. This is Scopes Unshamed for April 2026, my first ever Leo Rising Scopes Unshamed. Here we go. So, what I'm feeling for you is that, you know, February, March maybe was bringing up kind of a lot of just kind of deep stuff, like maybe some harder material or like less fun material in your life. And you might even call it an underworld journey. And so as we come into April here, there's a there's a deep relief that this phase is over. And you may feel like you are like actually getting way more clear in what you were learning from that underworld journey that you are now integrating into your way of understanding your life, like your larger journey. At the very beginning of the month of April, we have a full moon. And at that time, I wonder if there's something kind of close to you, a neighborhood thing, a sibling thing, maybe like a class that you take in a regular way, maybe a podcast or a YouTube video that you listen to that shapes your thinking in a way that has you wondering about and contemplating about how the vernacular of the words that we use every day shape our reality and can immediately like shift us into whole new ways of thinking about everything. So you like read a book that you just happen to pick up at a coffee shop, and even if you just read a little passage, there's something about that experience that can then catapult you into a whole new cosmology. So something interesting may be illuminated at the beginning of April that allows you to like locate a specific conversation or a specific book passage or a specific class teaching, podcast teaching that then has an effect over your month of April. And all that April is teaching you, Leo rising, about how you see the world. You have Aries in what we call the ninth house in astrology. And the ninth house is basically like the parts of life that relate to our larger understanding of the intelligence of the universe. So that can be anything from philosophy to religion to astrology to your personal cosmology, and also the ways that these types of teachings really pull you out and above your local informed sense of the world. Like if you've only ever been to one kind of church your whole life, and then you go to a worship space of a completely different religion, it's kind of mind blowing that this is what's going on for all these other people in this world, and you were only aware of your own. Just like if you've really never left home and then you go on a long, far away journey to a country that doesn't speak your language primarily and uses different spices in their foods and has completely different customs, it's going to very much rearrange your sense of the world. So, just like if you go to get a master's degree or a PhD, you are taken into this sense of abstract conceptual language and into thought thinking that really shapes your reality and expands the horizons of how you see being a human being on planet Earth. And that's where you have Aries. So you may be somebody who identifies with like really enjoying taking leaps into opportunities to expand your horizon and enjoys the challenge and the thrill and the excitement of bumping into something new that can shape your whole worldview. Like this may be a zone of great adventure for you and where you tend to feel braver than maybe in other parts of your life. And this part of your life then is being very lit up. And it may be inspired by what's been going on the last couple months, maybe not. But the point is, in this month, you're really getting activated to, yeah, be available to learn, be available to be a student of what you don't know. And when we come into times like that, we're also confronted with where we are afraid to not know. We are confronted with where we wanted certainty and turns out we don't have it. We can get confronted with the worldviews of our caregivers and the ways in which we recognize there's a misalignment between the way the world is appearing to us and the way it was shown to us by our caregivers. And that's going to bring up any parts of you that don't think you have permission to have your own worldview or don't think you're allowed to, like, quote unquote, make your parents wrong. And the various frustrations and resentments that can come up around topics like this, especially if you have a background of religious trauma, we could call it, this month may aggravate aspects of that trauma that want your attention, you know, like trusting that it's coming up to be cleared, it's coming up to be healed, it's coming up to be confronted, it's coming up to be held by you, held, looked at, tended to, honored, not to shame you or to, create havoc in your life, but to help you expand into your own leadership regarding your cosmology, because this is an area where it's really important that you choose for yourself, you know? So it could also bring up things around teachers, like where this could be a time where you find an important teacher. It can also be a time where you feel frustration and aggravation with a teacher, which is always really important because sometimes with teachers, teachers can bring up our relationship to authority. And where we have shame, we can be afraid to question authority. We can be afraid that we can't trust ourselves to pick the right authority or to follow a teacher, especially if we have shame in following a teacher who previously hurt us. And what I would invite you to notice is like where shame may confuse your relationship to authority so that you think you have to pick perfectly and that you can't just pick a human being who asks questions and wants to talk about things that expand your world, but doesn't actually have to be perfect because that's not actually a thing that a human being can be. And what if you're allowed to learn from an imperfect human being and it is not going to mean that they're going to like turn you into an evil person? So if you have a history of like being pulled into kind of culty spaces, This can be a time of coming into your own authority around your desire to be part of spaces that are philosophical, cosmological, astrological, like really asking big questions, spiritual communities, asking big questions, but it doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with the leader and everybody has to agree with each other and be exactly the same or you'll get canceled, right? Like we're all healing from shamey spaces. We're all healing from places where our heart was broken. And so for you, this might be a month where these themes really show up big. And this is just huge and it's very exciting because for Leo rising, I would want you to get very trusting of yourself as a leader in your cosmological journeys, in your spiritual journeys. And that will include trusting yourself that you're choosing teachers, you're choosing areas of study, and that you're never going to abandon your own knowing or your own intuition or yourself along the way. And you will do whatever you need to do to make sure you don't self abandon in the process, full of compassion and gratitude for what you did enjoy about those spiritual groups and those teachers. So, kind of a big one, but like really important, really, really important. And yeah, it may just be very literal too. Like this could be a month where you go on a kind of spiritual journey or pilgrimage that initiates you into the next year's like study with what you're learning about. Or it could be a month where you find yourself like signing up for a class that's just like blowing your mind and spirit open and expanding your horizons. And like it's going to be a month that an experience that you never forget. And you're always like, wow, spring of 2026. That's when I had that incredible journey of a class, journey of a trip. And I was, changed the trajectory of my life. That could be something that's very possible for you this month. And I think that all of this is happening side by side with some relational sweetness, maybe even financial sweetness in your career space with what you're known for, what your reputation is. There's a lot there this month for you as well in terms of support. Look for people who are supporting you. Look for ease where you can find it. Look for beauty where you can find it. Um, and as the month goes on, more and more your focus will start to shift over to your work in the world. And that will be the focus of our, especially the first half of our time together in May. So I hope to see you again in May for Scopes Unshamed, Leo Rising. Thank you.